once you start adding houses after that, I charge more because now there's a new law that basically said, they're adding $75 and some other, it's almost $100 for binding fees for houses that aren't your house now. Beginning of last year, they started a new law in California that charging more. So then I just kind of add that fee onto there, so. But it's basically pretty straightforward, so.
So within, you'd say a month, everything should be good to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I usually will handle transferring the house through the transfer deed and have it recorded for them. And then we sit down and go over their other assets, and then they do that themselves. That keeps it from being a $10,000 trust where I have to do everything for them. So I look at what their assets are and say, okay, this one, you have to change the beneficiary statement. This one, you have to change the title, and those type of things, so.
Okay, thank you.
Another question way back there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is regarding contesting a will.
Okay.
On that, does that mean that if you put $1 in the trust with the name, that shows you did not forget them in the will?
That's
And
always
that will go legally?
Well, in California, you don't have to leave them anything, but you have to have specific language that says you're disinheriting them. So
Yes.
I get clients where they have 3 kids that are good, they have a black sheep kid, so they say, and it happens a lot, they say, I'm disinheriting, I purposely do not give anything to this person, and that's adequate enough to do that.
And you don't need a dollar amount?
No, you don't.
Okay.
No. You just have to say specifically that they're not. Now, if you leave them out, that's the worst thing you can do, because they're gonna say you left me out.
Then they can contest it?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Another question? Yeah.
Thank you.
How about in a trust, do you have to put in all the jewelry or
Items.
or just jewelry?
That falls under a thing called personal property. And what I do, and whenever you set up a trust, when I give you the little notebook, there's a section in there that says personal property transfer. Now remember, that stuff doesn't really have a title. So what it is we sign a little affidavit that says all my personal property goes to my trust. And then after that, there's a list that you can write, okay, my 1-carat diamond goes to my niece. And then you sign it, and that's the way you transfer those things. So your successor trustee will see that you have a list of these specific things that are gonna go, and then they transfer them. So that's how that works. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be in a title, because there's no real title. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes?
Is that the same thing for bank accounts as well? If you have money in the bank and you want to specify how it's to be distributed?
Well, bank accounts are, remember, different. So
Okay.
you're gonna follow under the $150,000 rule, remember? So if that bank account say has $10,000 in it,
Right.
you can leave it in joint tenancy with you guys, because ultimately when you pass away, we can transfer that based on the fact that the trust says, okay, my stuff is gonna go to here. But once you get up higher, then you have to probate it. So the rule is the probatable assets have to be less than $150,000 to avoid probate. Now, real estate is always over that, so when we see real estate, we always want to do a trust. But say you have a bank account that has $10,000, you have another one that has 15, and you have another one that has 30, and they're just in your name jointly. So if you add them all together, it's less than 150, so you don't necessarily have to put that into the trust. It can still be transferred. It's done by a thing called a 13100 affidavit.
Okay, so if you have, if I win the lottery and I have $250,000,
And you're gonna retain me as your attorney.
then do I have to specify how that would be distributed?
Well, that's gonna go into wherever you're going to, if you have a trust, then you're gonna, so now remember, it's 250,000, it's over the 150, so so you would have to put that in the name of the trust, title it to the trust. And the way you do that, right now you say, John and Mary Smith, husband and wife is joint tenants. If it's in a trust, it's John and Mary Smith, trustees of the John and Mary Smith Revocable Trust. That's the title you have to use to make it titled in the name of the trust. So 250, you'd be over it. You'd want to put that in there.
And we wouldn't have to probate, right?
No, you wouldn't have to probate.
Once you put it in entitled property.
Title it into the trust. Yeah. Because remember, the trust has someone there. It'll always be to distribute it, so you don't have to go to court to do that. So that's kind of how that works. Any other questions? I saw. Yeah.
Would you
to put a corporate account, if your family or you and your wife own a corporation, under the trust, the corporate banking checking account?
A corporate, now, is that entitled under your S corp or your?
Yes,
your-
S corp.
The thing with corporations, they're different entities, so they have stock.
Right.
So the way you title it to the trust is you title the stock in the name of the trust.
The stock.
So whatever the corporation owns, if the stock says it's gonna go, it's owned by the trust, then you're okay that
So
way.
you just have to make sure your stock is covered under the trust.
Correct, because that's really the ownership assets of the trust.
Not necessarily the bank account.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Someone else, I'd like, somebody that, yeah.
If you have, two settlers pass away and you
Okay.
have to make distribution,
Right.
what is your fee for that?
Well, that's called administrating a trust, and it depends really on the size of the estate,
Do you have a
so.
certain percentage, or how do you base that?
I think I'm too cheap, so I usually base it on how many hours it's gonna take me. So generally, if it's a house transfer in one account, it's gonna be maybe $1,000 or something like that. So it really looks at how much work I have to do, so.
Now, what if I've made like 10 different amendments to my trust? Do you have to give notice to all those people and all those?
No. Remember, it's a private document.
Right.
So, you just have to follow the normal formalities of the amendments, and then when you administer it, you look at the original trust, and then you look at each amendment that goes from there. So the last one has the effect over the trust. So, no, you don't have to notify anyone. So, it's just the successor trustee will be the one who's gonna look at all that and determine how it's gonna be distributed, so.
But you don't have to give notice to these people in the trust?
No. Generally not, no. But again, that's the successor trustees' duties to do that. So they'll have an attorney help them or they'll do it themselves. I usually do a lot of small estates. I don't do large estates a lot, so. So it's pretty basic. You can wind up a trust in 40 to 60 days pretty quickly. It takes more time to get the death certificate, honestly, than to get most of the stuff, administered over, so. Any other questions? Yeah.
We did our trust probably about 14 years ago.
Okay.
And I was thinking about redoing it again, re-upping it in case
Okay,
there's
or have
some.
it reviewed and maybe amended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does something like that cost?
It varies on what you're going to do. So usually an amendment, I charge about $150 to do because it's usually 3 or 4 pages, not really extensive. At the same time, you can look at the durable powers because a lot of them outdate. They put new terms. I know with the Enhanced Healthcare Directive, they have a thing called HIPAA that they're now concerned about. It's a federal law that prevents people from seeing your medical records. So you want a HIPAA waiver in there. So there's a lot of
Little things that they've added.
but usually a durable power, I charge like $100 for
Oh.
each one. So not a lot of money, so yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
I acquired a property, as a single woman, and now, you're married, and,
Okay.
should I have a separate trust for that? If I intend to keep it in my name,
Right.
or put it in our trust together,
Well-
with, my name on it?
Most trusts, if you look at the first part of it, it'll say the character of the asset stays the same if you put it into the trust. So if you put it into the trust, which I recommend, it's still your separate property, so it doesn't change. Because that's dealing with when you die. Now, for divorce purposes, it's a little bit different. So you want to make sure that, it's your separate property, which you do. You don't want to commingle funds in it and do that type of thing. But if you put it in the trust, no, it doesn't change the character of it, so. And you can determine where you want that to go through the terms of the trust too. So do you want yours to go to a specific person, or how do you want to deal with that asset since it's your separate property?
Probably, some siblings, maybe?
Okay, yeah. So that's for you, you can say, you can have a clause in the trust that says this specific piece of property I want to go to X, and you can do it that way since it's your separate property. Make sense? You got, okay. I know. Anything else? Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm a successor trustee for my parents. Both of them are still living, but
Okay.
my father looks like he's in really bad shape.
Uh-huh.
Going to time now. I'm wondering, okay, we have a trust, so.
Okay.
Am I gonna have to have my mom's trust revised entirely when she becomes single, I mean, she becomes a widow? Or is that how you work things?
Well, no, what you do, in California now, it's a little bit different now because, or in the United States, there really isn't a state tax. Right now, you can transfer, what is it, it's 22.8 million before you pay a state tax. So a lot of people, their trust may have a husband and wife, but when the first one dies, the other one continues just as they were. And then when that person passes away, then they distribute assets. Generally, that's kind of the normal when that happens. Sometimes they'll do it, if it's a blended family, maybe when the first one dies, maybe there'll be some assets that'll be transferred. But generally, it's a husband and wife, one dies, they stay on, have full access to the money. When they pass away, then it distributes out. So I don't know how you compare it.
So I don't have to really revise it?
No, you don't have to. You may want to review and look at it, but you shouldn't have to revise. It should be taken care of within the trust. So, are you the successor? Are you the attorney? In fact, you handle their durable powers too? So yeah. So you may want to look at that a little bit too. So okay. Anything else? Did I bore you to death?
No, I have a question. Essentially, what has more weight, conservatorship or the durable power of attorney?
I don't know if it's a matter of weight. I think it's a matter of convenience and hassle. If you do the durable power, remember, if you do a conservatorship, you have to go to court. You have to establish that that person is incapacitated. You have to also then set someone up who's going to take over. And then the conservatorships I've done, every 2 years I have to go in and do an accounting of everything that's been spent. And I've gone in there and I've had judges yell at me, well, you spent too much for Christmas presents for the grandkids. So they're really that detailed. With the durable part, you don't even have to do that. You just get set up as the person who's taking over and you just handle their affairs. So there's no accounting necessary. So I think it's more convenience than which one is a better vehicle to do that. Anything else?
One more question.
Sure.
On my parents' estate, there's four trustees, one is like a primary trustee.
Yeah, that's the initial successor
Yeah,
trustee.
So, how much, I guess, handling of the estate is he entitled to, other than the three other trustees? Does he have more power to control over it, or do we all have equally the same?
Well, are they all co-successor trustees, or are they just one's named and there's a backup and then there's another one?
Yeah, he's like a primary trustee.
Okay, so he has all the power. No one else has any power. And then if he resigns or is unable to do it, then the next person steps in. So it's a hierarchy. So the first person that's there, they're the ones who have all the power. The other ones don't.
So even though there are like three others that are siblings and.
Right, yeah. For some reason, the parents pick that person as the primary one. Now, some of them will do it as co's and have all three work together. That never works. I can't get two people to work together, let alone three. So, but that's a valid way of doing that. So, but if one's picked, then they're the ones who are responsible for handling all the affairs of the trust.
What do we see sometimes that, say, the primary trustee is not, sometimes doing what he's supposed to be doing? We find sometimes that he's, not cooperating with us, or doesn't do things when we feel that they should be done. We wanna continue talking, communicating, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way. We wanna keep things going.
Right.
Since he's a sibling, we feel kind of like, oh, we don't wanna push him, and we don't wanna agitate the family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really, really difficult when we wanna keep going and moving, and the majority of us do wanna have a
Yeah.
good day, but it's really hard when it's a family member.
It is, and I hear that all the time, where one's just sitting on it, and the other one's on, or
Exactly.
but you're balancing it against, there's always a sibling, you have 4 siblings, the 3 are fine with it, but you have one who's really never helped the family at all, now come out of the blue and say, I want my money now. So, and they push it out. Yeah.
Yes.
So, the successor trustee has to do things within a reasonable time, that's the court way of approaching it. So, you know, they don't have to do it immediately, but they have to make sure that all the bills are paid. If they have to do an accounting, they have to do that. And then hold a little bit back to make sure that if something comes out a year from now, that there's money to pay for that. sometimes it takes a year to do that or longer, it depends on how complicated the estate is, so. But I hear that all the time. It gets people, they get really frustrated because, you know, they want their money now or they want them to hurry it up and get it done faster. But there's a certain pace that they have to do to make sure that they're, you know, dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's. So, yeah.
Question is, instead of trust in the state of California, you move to another state, how applicable is it for each state difference?
Well, the trust will be valid in another state. The only thing that you may have an issue are the durable powers, because they're a little bit different in each state. So, but you can have a trust in California and it can be effective on a Nevada property or an Arizona property, so you're fine with that. So, if you want to save a little money, keep the trust, it's fine. Anything else? Jack, I think, oh, yeah.
Well, because you said there's a certain pace at which the successor, I guess you'd call that last person,
The successor trustee,
right.
yeah.
So there's a certain pace at which that they have to distribute things. Who tells them that?
Well, again, it's one of those quasi things. It's a reasonable time. So reasonable is, say there's one house, there's a couple bank accounts, and they're taking 5 years to do it. That's unreasonable. So, but if it takes them a year and a half, that may be reasonable because they're waiting for bills to come in and pay certain things. Even when you're going through that, Medi-Cal comes in and puts a claim in. So there's a lot of things that they have to make sure are paid and dealt with before they distribute.
So how do they know? Who tells them that? The attorney that the parents might have used to set up the trust?
They can be the ones who establish that and try to get it moving that way. So if they're doing it on their own, and most people do it on their own, that, you know, that's where you get into issues and stuff like that. So, anyone? Yeah.
Getting back to our question, and knowing that there's a lot of different lawyers,
Yeah.
is there an arbitrator that could determine, to give her an answer to that? What's a reasonable time period if family members are grinding on the trustee?
There isn't an arbitrator per se. You would go to court and do a hearing and have a judge say, hey, you know, you're not doing your thing, we kick them out, we put another trustee in. That's usually what happens. Or they go to another attorney and they kind of yell and straight, yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. If they go back to the attorney when they read in the book, you know who the attorney is, and they go to them and say, "Can I have your help? I'm, the child of these two people who are."
Well, remember, generally attorneys that set up trusts don't necessarily administer them too. So a lot of people assume, well, you did the trust, you should administer it. You have to actually do a separate contract with them to do that. So it's a separate entity.
But because they're saying that people don't need it, they're saying that they.
Right. If you have like a single house, or if you just have bank accounts, you really don't need to. So it can be done pretty easily on your own if you have a little savvy. Yeah.
How often should you review your trust document?
I'm pretty conservative. I usually think every 4 to 5 years. And usually you're going to think, you know, you're getting kids that are growing up now, or people are dying and that type of thing. Or maybe that successor trustee who is a great person now is in federal prison somewhere, you never know. So that's the time that you should do, yeah. So there's no set time. A trust is usually very adequate for what you need. You don't have to, I get attorneys that send a yearly letter saying, let's review it, and they charge you $300 or $400. They're just ripping you off. So don't even do that. So it's not necessary, yeah.
Can you put a clause in the trust that says the successor has, by certain 30 days from, say, our death, 30 days, I want you to have it.
You put any clause in there. I don't know if it'll fly, but yeah. So again, the statute says a reasonable time. So that's reasonable within the facts that you have. So, yeah. Anything else? Jack, I think we're done.
All right, okay, so a couple of things, all right. I want to make sure everybody signed in because we're going to do something a little crazy here, so let's see. Did everybody sign in here on the sign-in sheet?
We'll do it real quick. So, also, if you guys, I have some of my cards here if you want those, and then any other questions, you can always email me or call me later on down the road.
So we're gonna get a little creative here for 1 second. So Dan's information it's all on your sheet, right? So
Yeah.
make sure you call them.
Yeah.
Any questions, like I said, hey, we will have, just so you know, so it's gonna be once a quarter. We will always have an expert come out. Hey, by the way, let's give Dan a big hand. Hey, this is like perfect sleeping weather, but I was in the back checking if anybody's dozing off, that's okay. So once a quarter, we'll have something like this. It's gonna be same spot, same whatever. A couple of other topics that are coming up. Okay, there's gonna be one that's called aging in place. Sometimes we have families tell us, hey, we're gonna die in this house, we're not going anywhere, right? Which is fine, but we have experts who deal with that. They'll tell you things, what you should do to your home, make sure you keep it safe, what to do, what not to do, and sometimes, I've sat in these lectures and going, it almost sounds common sense, but you know what gets me? Okay, I have the privilege of seeing many of you, well, actually thousands of you, right? And, I'll hear stories like, oh, he slipped because, I'll give you one, whatever you do, and I'm no expert. I'll share something with you, okay? The biggest thing that has hurt quite a few families that I think should not have happened, at night, you're in a hurry. You're upstairs, you should really come down. If he had this is what happened. He had 2 plates. It's 12 midnight. He didn't want to wait till the next morning. What he normally does is take 1 plate, turn the lights on, hand on the rail, come down, right? Okay. Well, he said, oh, I can handle this, no problem, right? He takes the 2 plates, no lights on, bam, right? That is stuff that should not happen. Will you save the next 2 minutes? And, in fact, today, they're going back to the God-forsaken thing, right? So don't do that. So we'll have something like that. The next one, there's also another one coming up. We're arranging a time. The topic will be, the good and the bad and the truth. Reverse mortgages.